Hello and welcome back to another episode of Build Breakdown. My name's Pris, and oh boy, have I got a build for you today. Let's get right into it, shall we? So you see this house here, yeah? This nice little pink and brown Neapolitan thing. This is the very first build I made on this world. I made it to be my actual home. However, we've sort of outgrown it. I have chests everywhere. It's a little bit of a problem. I have just about outgrown this space. So, today we're going to be building a new home. I even have a spot already picked out for it. I totally wasn't planning a whole nother build here and cleared the entire thing for it, only to just tear it all down because I no longer felt inspired to build it. No, of course not. So we have a huge space here. Big, open, blown up mountainside. It actually used to be like two ravines going through the side here, and then a giant mountain. But now it's not. So let me free cam show this to you. I have decided to turn this entire little mountain area into one of the next builds. You see, a fun thing about this place is it's actually quite open. There's just huge holes everywhere. It's relatively flat. I mean, we'll have to do some terraforming. But it's just naturally so open. I just unnaturally made it a little bit opener. So what I want to do is take this space and make a new home for myself. So you're probably wondering, hey Pris, what kind of style of architecture are you going to do this time? Because you tend to do sculptural builds and actual architectural builds. Well, my friend, today I have in store for you less of a style, more of an actual philosophy. Check it out. Okay, so what I really want to focus on, and honestly something I've been wanting to focus on for a while now, like to really get into it and study it, is organic architecture. I believe it was created by Frank Lloyd Wright. In my opinion, best represented by his building Falling Water. I gotta say, I do not like this building. I think it is way too mainstream. Get it? Because it's a stream. I'm not a fan of this building, but I think it's one of the few in the world that actually personify what organic architecture is. So let's break down the principles and then I'll show off the various examples. There are 12 general principles for organic architecture. There's building in sight, which is to keep the site relatively raw as you found it, and to have the building form seem to have grown out of the site. Like it is made for that context and it grew out of the context. Materiality, using minimal materials. They've got to be clean, organic, natural materials for the most part. Shelter. That's a given for most buildings, in my opinion. It needs to convey a sense of protection and privacy. That's what buildings typically do. Space, that's pretty much what a building is. It's what a building defines. That's the walls, the ceilings, and the floor, just coming together to create the space inside of that. So that's just what a building does. Proportion and scale. This one's a difficult one, especially for us to get when it comes to putting this into Minecraft terms. But it needs to be harmonious to nature's actual scale. So, going back to Falling Water up here, you see how this just sort of floats along this plane here. This first level here, and each of those reiterates on top of that. What if this white wall here actually came up like that? It would just feel way too big. So they kept it at a relatively small scale that seems to work with the various stacking that's already going on in nature here. It's relatively continuous sizing throughout the whole space. But it also needs to be comfortable to human proportion. That's something that we really can't get in Minecraft because, Minecraft is completely different. We have a person being the same height as two grass blocks. It's not the same human proportion. But we'll try to get that best we can. Nature. Buildings should reflect and be part of nature. That one sort of goes back into building in sight, but it also hones in on this idea of taking this natural shape, like over here with the Nautilus house in Mexico. They took this Nautilus shell and made that the building, or at least the shape of it. It's taking a shape found in nature and reflecting that in the form of the build. So it's not necessarily part of the context. Like, as you can see, this is not on a beach. There's trees, and that looks like grass. I mean, it could be on a beach, but it doesn't look like it is. Especially the inside. That's gardens, although that is so cool. Having gardens inside, that is really pretty. Back to the principles, though. Repose. This one I'm kind of struggling with to understand. But if I have this right, it uses the space that it has for what it needs to be. So, as it says, no uncluttered space. It's using up as much space as it needs, but no more. That's why the spaces are cluttered, because it's trying to be efficient with what it has. Grammar. Now, grammar, I think, is sort of a given for most architecture. All parts of a building must speak the same language. So, going back up to the Nautilus house here, seeing this outside, seeing this form, seeing this materiality, and coming back inside, I know that this little bulbous area is just on the outside of this little bulbous area. However, it's acknowledging that this materiality is the same as this, and it's speaking the same curved language. It didn't have to. You could have just had this bulbous area on the outside and then had flat wall, but they didn't. They further honed it in with all of these curving paths and shapes. I love that curving path there. It's speaking the same language at every scale and every level of detail. Ornamentation. So the philosophy of organic architecture really hones in on this idea that external ornamentation should not really be a thing. I mean, you can have some, but nature is meant to be the ornament. Back up to falling water. There's no grand little attributes on this building. It is very plain, very basic. But the idea is that nature is supposed to be the ornament. That's sort of something that can be said for this building here, Casa Mila in Barcelona. This building is quite something. The ornamentation on here. There is a bit of ornamentation. One could argue it's too much for organic architecture. That's a chimney. But their chimneys and roofs have such fantastic ornamentation to them. But it's in the form. It's not in an applied element. You don't have like an ornamentation band going across here. You don't have like fancy window trim all around here. You just have the basic cast iron for all of the balconies. Actually, it's not even basic. It's pretty fancy. Like, look down here. Look at how fancy those railings are. It is some extravagant cast iron work. But it's very, very plain facade. Back to the principles. We've got human value. Essentially saying respect nature. Respect the values that you are emulating in this building. Simplicity. That's something that half of these don't get. Like Bovinger House in Oklahoma. I love this building. It is so cool looking. It's so unique. They've got all their spaces set up in like these little pod systems throughout here. Just like hanging chill spaces. But this does not scream simple. I do love the spiral form. But it's set up in such a fancy little suspension system that I don't think it's simple at all. It can be simple, but it doesn't appear to be simple. And actually, here's another good one, is I don't even know how to pronounce that, Radhuset metro station in Stockholm. This is actual bedrock. They supposedly used an actual cave system for their metro station, which is so cool. They just simply put in concrete and a concrete floor. And then, of course, the rail system going through. That's it. It's super simple. And then, of course, mechanical systems and furnishings. It's essentially saying that your MEP stuff, like your AC systems, all this other stuff, things should be integrated into the building and not sort of just tacked on. Like, you actually got to think about it. But honestly, that should be a given when it comes to any architecture. But those are the basic principles of organic architecture. I highly doubt we'll actually be able to hit in on all of them. We'll see. Now, back in Minecraft, my initial thoughts are not to modify this any more than I already have. There is a natural, nice little marina, and I went and burst a hole through it, apparently. So I would like to preserve it in the current state it is, but I also want to somehow utilize this little marina here. We also have this relatively flat space inside. Probably just needs a little bit of shaping up, a little cleaning. Oh, and another fun thing. So this marina here, there's actually another one. This one's even cooler, actually. Look at how big it is. Oh, wow. And it's just wide open. Just naturally open and huge. But I think we're saving that marina for something else. I just want to use that small one that I've accidentally broken. So I'm going to take some pictures and we're going to sketch some stuff up. Okay, so to explain the art real quick, let me first explain the examples. We have, of course, the Bobinger house. This is from the video game Gris. It's honestly one of my favorite video games of all time. It is so pretty. But this one, this art piece, inspired the most. It's Urban Nature by Nikoi Ito. It's such a cool piece. The way that they took the branches of the tree and literally sliced them up, put them in jars, and separated them all out, but still kept the actual shape of the tree branch. So to go over to here, I want to utilize this sort of tree branch system going through. So essentially, I'm going to plant a big old tree here, and it's just going to weave its way up, and the building's just going to go in between it. I was also looking a lot at the interior, trying to figure out how I'm going to do the structure in there, and I think I have an idea for it. I sort of want to have this tree in the middle that holds a bed right here, but it's also going to have all these various arches coming through. Maybe coming up to a center point like I've started to draw over here. But I'm really wanting just these simple wooden arches coming across and seeming to hold up the space. Like, I know I don't actually need them to hold up the space, but I want to give the impression of a structure. I don't want to change the cave. I want to keep it relatively the same shape, otherwise it's not adhering to the principle of organic architecture. Hopefully this comes together. These are just preliminary ideas, so this might change a bit. Don't be surprised if it does. The next step is to actually start building this. So let's get to work. Ta-da! Oh, I love what we've done here. Okay, so let me explain. We've made this giant central dome here and added arch openings into each of the sides. And then we've got this center circle in the middle that's serving as this sort of light well. Here, let's go free cam. We got a glass layer here, and then we have another glass layer on top. I love how that turned out. And then I also went around and shaped up the ceiling, as well as some of the cave walls. It took about 4 hours. I also did a little on the, but the floor was mostly done already because that was part of the modded thing. The ceiling was not. The ceiling was constant, just one block to one block to one block to one block. So I went around and added a whole bunch of slabs. And it really improved the shape, in my opinion. Like, that's just such a smoother curve and transition going on. I did it around all the rest of the cave as well. It was actually really fun to do. And a lot easier in modded because I was able to just, like, jump really high so I didn't have to worry about scaffolding and such. So here's the progress on the tree. Free cam. We got a messy little root structure going on, and then we have all these branches coming through. I used oak and white oak. The white oak is just barely brighter, so I wanted that to be more of like a highlighting feature for where the sun will hit. I still need to go around and add all the rest of the structure, but we have at least all the windows in and the beginning of the walls. I wanted to do this messy transition system here. It's very chaotic looking, but honestly, I'm here for that vibe. It looks really cool. We went ahead and eliminated the secondary tree in here because honestly it was just not going to fit and it sort of messed with the space. However, I was able to introduce a little space right in here. I can't exactly show it to you because it's not built, but just picture that's going to be the little bed area up there. And then over here, we have this smaller little quarter dome going on. We got the same little circle transition on the top, but we went ahead and cut it through with this rectilinear form. And honestly, I'm very happy with how this little space turned out. It's not finished per se, but the finishes are in. I still need to bring in all the life and such to it. But one thing that we did do here, I really wanted a half step up, but I noticed that the typical vanilla end rods, you can't actually just automatically walk up them, you'd have to jump. So luckily, I found this Simply Light mod that has illuminate rods that you can just walk up. It actually registers as a half slab. So I went around and I figured out the exact way that I would be accessing this area, because this is going to be our central work area. It'll have like furnaces, storage, crafting, all that. So I found the shortest routes. Oh, actually, we need to change this one out. Okay, good, I got some spare glass. But this, that's gonna bug me, so yeah, that's much better. So using the shortest routes, we can at least determine which rods need to be the illuminate and which ones can be the end. Because I really liked the end rods. I love that little particle effect. I love the slight yellowy glow to it. It's so pretty. I really want to be able to use them for all of them, but I need to also be able to walk up them. Over here, we added a sort of plant with a bunch of glass interspaced into it for a solid flat level. That way we can actually like stand and walk around and not have to worry about falling through. I don't know what it is about glass, but I really like interplaying it with nature. This was so much fun to do, and I wasn't even anticipating actually doing this until I did it. I really liked it. That's also something I'm playing with over here. We have this central hallway coming in. We've got these interspaced arches with 4 blocks in between. And I really wanted to do a sort of promo wall, I guess. Just have my name across it. I gotta be a little conceited here, come on. I'm an architect and I'm doing this YouTube thing. So it sort of comes with the job descriptions. I'm trying to figure out what color glass to use, and honestly, I think it's either going to be the light gray or the green because I was using the gray and it just sort of dulls it. It makes it look really sad. I really like how much life is in here, but the green just sort of mutes the actual plants. So I think we're going to go with the light gray. And I do really like using the panes here because we have here between each of where the areas of glass are, these fence gates. I'm using them as a sort of mullion, like in a when you're looking at a storefront wall, like an actual giant glass wall or most of a wall. When you're looking at that, you'll see either a strip of metal separating pieces of glass, or you'll see the glass just butt up to each other. So I wanted to actually separate them by using sort of mullion system. However, I wanted to bring a little element of fantasy to it and to tie it back to the actual structure. So we're using a fence gate. It makes it look like it's tied to this arch here, and it looks like it's holding back the glass. It sort of works here on the full pieces of glass, but I didn't realize until I did this how well it plays with the actual pane of glass. Like that's a perfect flat line, whereas that, you just gotta picture it. So I think we're gonna go with the light gray glass panes. Now, there's still a lot of work to be done here, so let's get back to it. And it's done! Oh, I'm so happy. Both that it's done and with the results of it. Let me show this to you. Free cam. Here's the exterior. This tree was so much fun to do, especially putting in all the leaves and such. It was very tedious, but I just threw on an audiobook and cranked it out, and it turned out so well, in my opinion. I also really like how it's just coming into this build here, and it's just transitioning over into all the glass. It is not the results I was expecting, but it is even better. I also really love this entryway. Up here, in this little roost area, I guess, we got the bed. I love the fairy lights. This is... okay, let me show this to you. These are fairy lights from the Night Lights mod. And in my opinion, it just brings such a warmth and life to the build. I know it's the stereotypical fairy lights integrated with a bunch of nature and stuff, but there's a reason it's popular. It's because it looks so good. Alright, over here we've got our work area. We got all the basic necessities, all of my shulkers and such. I might change this up later as I expand more, but that's what we have for now. Speaking of expansion, we've still got actually a good bit of the cave to work with. I might do some stuff later on all that. I haven't fully planned it out. So that might be some future expansion later. Ignore those chests. That's also for future builds. We have over here our storage. It's a little bit messy, but there is a system to it, and it is decently organized. I might go around and clean it up a little bit more. Might even make something different for this. We'll see. But over here, I am very happy with this. I wasn't anticipating putting a tree in here, but I knew that I really wanted this central figure, sort of statuesque. And I think a tree really fits the vibe. We actually have the beacon going through it. The beacon's just under the roots there. And then we've got glass going up through the middle to hide it. I'm very happy with that tree. And then over here, this is the most recent part I did. We got a little garden area. Little bench I can sit on. Oh, I love this. I even got my little coffee cup sitting on the table next to me. I'm very happy with how this little pergola trellis thing turned out. I've never made one before, and I don't think I've ever even seen one in real life. But I just went based off of some idea that I had, and I think it turned out really well. It's using a lattice from Beautify mod, and then a bunch of open fence gates to simulate the structure of it. I really like how well all of this turned out, both this trellis thing and the entire build. In my opinion, I think I hit the points of organic architecture pretty well in this build, but let me know what you think. And with this video, we're going back to posting every 2 weeks, because honestly, it takes 2 to 6 weeks to make a single video, at least for me. And it doesn't help that I'm actually in the middle of a big move right now. So that's also why there's a bunch of differences in the audio throughout this video. I'm just collecting boxes all around my desk setup here, but it's coming along. We're gonna end this off with a few scenic shots. I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.